What's up again, everybody? About a year ago, I put out a video on what I called one of the most unique card game experiences I've ever played, and that is Varia. Varia is an expandable card game. It's not a trading card game. You can't use that other term that's trademarked. Sorry, there's something in my eye. You can't use the other terms. You have to call it an expandable trading card game because it's not like a, well, you know the other term. It's not that thing. Anyway, it is a really interesting take on an expandable card game and a card game in general because of how unique it is and what it actually does with the game. And as far as when I talked about it about a year ago, outside of I would say one, maybe two gripes that I had with the game itself, one of which I'll talk about here in a moment. Yeah, I thought it was a really cool and very unique experience. Before we get too far into this thing though, do let me know if there are some other super underrated games out there that you think we should take a look at. Games that I haven't covered on the channel or that you haven't seen much hype for, but you'd like to know more about, or you'd like me to know more about. If so, leave a comment down below and I might check those out. Essentially what this is it is a buy a deck, play it kind of a game. So you're going to pick up any of these decks. Now I think these retail like 16 bucks, 17 bucks, and it's just you have it, you play it. It's one of those where you don't have to go searching for cards, and in fact, in some ways, these cards can be interchangeable within decks. But overall, you literally get a deck and it is playable right out of the box, and it is not one of those things where, okay, now I have to go find a higher rarity, open packs, trade, that sort of thing. And if that tickles your fancy, and you're also looking for something that's a little bit more complex and a little bit more unique to how it plays, then this game was one that you could look for. And outside of one of the gripes, which was some uneven art, as far as art presentation and everything like that, I thought it was a really, really cool experience. And I'm saying all of this, and I'm prefacing all of this with what I'm going to show you here in a moment that Varia is now moved on to, because I think they've really taken what they had here and ironed it out. First of all, I do want to come back and say this. It's a card game first, and a dice incorporated game second. These dice come with this package. I just use my own dice because I have a bunch of D6s and D4s. I don't know if you do, but I do, because Dungeons and Dragons. I also want to say that this is a game that very much leaned into its lore and its characters, and it's very character driven, which I thought was cool, because literally this is the starter set little like learn to play, and it starts off with straight up the two characters in this starter set in a comic fighting, which is sick. That's pretty cool. And it doesn't stop there. But I do want to point this out because I want you to see the experience of how things have changed. As far as the game is concerned, you're going to be basically, and I won't do like a full complete how to play. If you want that, there's fantastic things out there on that already. But essentially what you're doing is you are crafting a story with your opponent, and one of you dies at the end. And you're basically paying I'm just going to call them resources. You're paying resources to play out these either moves or attacks, and you play them out, and your opponent responds in kind with their own attacks or moves. So maybe you play this and they play that, and then you play this and then they play that. And then after you've played all of these things on this timeline, that's a series of events that are going on, you can then go back and you can change things from your hand. Maybe this becomes that, and all of a sudden something new is going to happen. But you have to follow certain rules of like, well, I can change it because it's fast. And then your opponent can respond in kind. Eventually, you keep taking actions until neither player can afford to or choose to anymore, and then you begin resolving everything in order and see what happens. And this is where the die roll mechanic comes in. All of your cards do X amount of damage, or like whatever they do, and then you roll a die to see if there's like a buff to that, which is kind of cool. Plus, there's this interaction where, like if my focus, which is represented by the D4, on my block is higher than your focus on the attack, then I have dodged it and protected myself. So there is a little bit of fun die rolling kind of fit into it. But one of the things that really kind of stuck out to me that could be improved was the art and aesthetics of the game. And you can kind of see this, like, so I think that's a cool piece of art. This is a really cool looking piece of art. I mean, it fits, it's fine, it's cool, it's fine by me. But then we get to stuff like this, which doesn't strike me the same way as this. It's not terribly far off, but like, you look at this and you like look at the detail of the ground, and it doesn't seem like it fits very well. That seems fine. Not exactly the same art style, but you don't have to. I think it's fun to mix art styles from time to time. There's nothing wrong with that. Cool, cool, cool. This is a completely different art style. Very comic booky. I love that. That looks awesome. It's completely different, but I don't mind. And then that's a little strange. Doesn't strike me the same way. This is a bit uneven compared to all the things we've seen before. Very heavy like line work around the outsides. Completely different art style. Also a little bit different. A weapon that looks kind of strange. But like then we get to just some other, this right here. It's a photo of a guy that's been like photoshopped with other things like that. It's incredibly uneven, and it's not like it's the worst thing in the world, but aesthetics matter, especially when you're trying to convince people to pick up a game that, by the way, just plays fundamentally differently than just about anything you're used to, which I would also say, because it is such a break from, you know, traditional like card games, CCGs, things like that. It is one of those things that it's going to take some getting used to and some convincing of friends to try it out, but I really encourage you to. I think it's just like also really well considered. Like this is a little pamphlet that comes in the deck. It literally has a QR code, scan it, learn how to play it. It's got like a list of everything that's going on. It's overall, the game is really spicy and it's got some really cool legs to it. It just had a few things that, in my opinion, they could iron out to really push it ahead, top notch. And I can't get this back into the box, but you know what? That's okay, because I'm just going to move this over. Same thing is true with like the Sixth Blade, for example. Some similar stuff across the board. Because look at this. Here is what they call the Season 2 package of decks. And the cool thing about this is this retails for $100, which if you play or purchase any other card game is about the price of a single booster box. When you take a single booster box, you can usually get, depending on what you're building and like what your format is, 1 to 2 decks out of it, right? Which is not bad. This one comes with all of the decks for this season. And as you look at these, I mean, it's literally what, 7 decks, 7 different heroes, and holy crap, did they come up with some really cool, evocative heroes that strike you in a way that seems familiar, but also brand new. Deathblood Sorcerer. I'm just going to pop over, you know, like a few of these open and show you what I mean. It's like this. When you open this, it gives you a turn structure. By the way, if you're curious about how the game plays, I described a little bit earlier as what you're doing, but there's also this mechanic of if you're close to your opponent or if you're far away. It's very much simulating like tell the story of this duel, and then whoever is more crafty or uses their resources better ends up, you know, coming out on top. Die rolls make it really fun too. You get a really cool like full art hero, and then an entire backstory to that hero on the back of your hero. And then look at the art. All of a sudden, and I looked through every single one of these decks, it's so on point. It's so cohesive. Like that's a little different in style, but it's still incredibly cohesive. That's a really cool piece. And as you flip through all of these decks, this one's really cool. That's really cool looking. The aesthetic overall feels a lot more unified, and like even this is like a little bit completely opposite of like the feel or the tone of previous cards. But keep in mind, these cards can be swapped out of this deck and put into a different deck as well. And some of these cards can just literally, I think all of these cards can like just come in, come out, depending on what you're doing. And you can kind of tailor make your hero as you see fit, but you don't have to chase the cards down because they are all in the deck. It's a 30 card deck, and you're basically playing against each other, building up this timeline as you go. By the way, this box straight up comes with the dice as well. Comes with the dice as well. Comes with this book as well. And I want to mention this. Even with the first release, the first season, if you will, of decks, it was still some of the best presentation that I've seen from a small card game. And this continues. This entire booklet has like a one-pager for all of these like characters. And you can literally read their backstories as well as like their main features, mechanics, how their deck plays, all in one-stop shop. I think that's really cool. And honestly, this is a fantastic way. By the way, yes, there is a heavy metal bard. I will take this deck out and show you every single card. There's a heavy metal bard that literally just plays like bass riffs. It's insane. It's insane. I mean, it looks like it's like Cyberpunk 2077. He plugged the guitar into his mouth. That's ridiculous. There's a bear, just a bear. That's a ranger. But this is something that like more card games should just straight up make. Is a product like this. I mean, just imagine like pick any card game you want to talk about. Dice Masters would do something like this. It'd be fantastic. Flesh and Blood, of course. You can literally just grab all of these hero decks and put together like a one-pager for each hero, and then throw all these hero decks into one pack. I think that would be incredibly smart. But this game does it in a way that totally fits the style too, because when you buy all of these decks, remember these cards are interchangeable between decks, so you basically just bought the entire set, which is crazy to think about. Like if you're wanting to sit down and play a game with your friends, like over tabletop, you literally just sit down and pick up this one box, and you can mix and match to your heart's content and play out the entire game. This one's crazy. So this is a psychic fencer. Like, again, what a cool, weird, unique, underratedly interesting idea. A fencer with psychic powers. And when you see it like play out, by the way, there's also some crazy looking cards in this. Yes, it's a fencer with like a robotic arm, which is really cool. That art, by the way, is sick. Look at that. Quick step lunge, savvy riposte, confusion. This is just weird looking, so awesome. Concussive blast. Some of these are just like, yikes. Can I show that? I mean, it reminds me of Flesh and Blood in that way. Look at that. Mirror Mind Thrust. This is so cool. And again, some of these are like physical attacks. You can see down here. Some of these are magical attacks. And these can be mixed and matched. And this card, like for example, was found in the previous deck. If you like healing effects, then you can add this card to another hero that you like or another character that you like playing. But you can also just take this, shuffle it up, and play against one of these other decks. And they're all, you know, built in. It's all within one thing. Look at the art on this card. This is the one that like made me stop and just stare. Look how cool this piece is. That is so cool. I love that. I think that's awesome. Ride the Lightning. And then this was the one. This is the one that I was like, ooh, I don't know if I can show that. But that exists. That's a card that you can play in this game. And then a couple of like tokens in the background that do different things, which I think is really cool. But it's all built in, and it's all available and accessible in one fell swoop. Also, just who would have thought? You take your turn structure on the back, you put a die. If they don't even own a die, a D6 and a D4, they can just cut this out, fold it, and poof, they have a die. And it's all built into the deck. And these are individually purchasable. Like you can buy this, which I think is smart. You can just buy one deck at a time if you wanted, but I like the idea. This is the one. This is the one we have to look at. You can just buy this entire pack and in one fell swoop have all of these decks. Just stop. Just stop. Is this not super underratedly cool? Like, I know if you've never heard of this game, yes, this is the 4th blade. We talked about the 6th blade earlier. It turns out that the 4th blade here just plays bass. Has a sick bass line. That's just so cool. Live wire. It's literally the wire that's hooked to the bass, but instead now it's just flying at you. Oh my god. I was looking at this and I was just like, this is the coolest freaking thing ever. Like, if you're gonna do like a bard of some sort, why not make it a robotic heavy metal like bard playing? It's just crazy. This is just crazy. This is cool too. So enthralling lights, and again, they all play functionally differently from each other. Like this, you'll pull people closer to you. Everyone that's disengaged becomes engaged to you. And they have wording in this that also alludes to like being able to play multiplayer as well, which I guess if you're gonna buy the box, then multiplayer helps, right? Because you can get more than one person, you know, sit down at the table and jam these games out, which I think would be cool. I don't know how that would function. I haven't actually looked into that, but I think that would be really sweet. And it's just incredibly interesting to see this game become a lot more cohesive from an art perspective. I think presenting the game in as many ways as you can from a clarity point of view, like every single thing, every single deck has a turn structure card included that you can set down, you can read through, you can work your way through. You can watch on their website on, let's see, I think it's listed in like every spot ever. You can go to playvaria.com, you can go to like all these places. They've done a good job, I think, of building up this this how to play structure and these videos, these resources and guides on how to pick up the deck and play. And I think that helps a ton. But overall, I was quite impressed by the quality and the improvements that have been made to this game. It is a small company that is putting out, I think, a very quality product, and one that you should definitely consider looking into and checking out, because the game is fun. Don't get me wrong, the game is really fun, especially if you like the addition of just like a little bit of dice mechanics and trying to play into that, along with your very heavy strategic trying to plan out your moment-to-moment action. So the game is fun, and now I think it's presented in a way that's just a lot better, a lot more cohesive. It makes a lot more sense. So that is Varia Season 2, and you should definitely give it a look, pick up a deck if you want to, and try it out for yourself. If you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed the look at a small game that is totally underrated, feel free to make a number go to another number and tell me what you'd like me to take a look at next. Are there games that you think are underrated that we should take a look at? Let me know. As always, thanks for watching.